So I'm getting ready to sit down and do some army book reviews, and I just can't shake something in my head. I've been thinking a lot about Age of Sigmar lately because it is the new hotness. It's the new thing that just came out, and I've been playing it like crazy. And I've had 10 to 12 bat reps at this. I don't remember the exact number. 10 to 12 full games, and honestly, the vast majority of them have been fantastic. I won some, I lost some, but every game's been fantastic, barring one. Now there is a General's Handbook slash third edition general review that Luca and I did for mini wargaming that I have no idea when it's out. But the one bat rep that was a negative experience. Talk about it in detail in that a little bit, so I don't have to go over that. But for the most part, the third edition changes have been vast improvements to Age of Sigmar. I really enjoy them. I think you have to really play third edition to fully grasp all the nuances of the change to the game. I think the game is far more tactical, thought invoking. It's like there's just, you gotta pay attention more. There's a lot more going on. It's less of a beer and pretzels game than it was. Now that, to me, that's a big boon. I hope the majority of you like that. But that's neither here nor there. But one thing I think is lacking, and basically I was kind of hoping that it would be addressed in the General's Handbook, is terrain seems to be an issue. Now, well, first let me explain why. I'll explain what I've done to try to mitigate it. First of all, so terrain doesn't seem to matter a whole lot until it does. So when we make damn near every game I play is played on camera, played in a battle report, recorded for an audience to view. Excuse me. And because of that, the terrain, we give it a little bit more thought, less to functionality and more to visual appeal. You want the setting in the bat rep to look interesting, and then of course you want it to affect the game in a positive way. For example, if you don't play 40k, this might not make sense to you, but if you play 40k, for the beginning of 40k 9th edition, smaller mats, we felt there was a big struggle with balancing the terrain from looks to functionality. Meaning that is, in 40k, it has an issue of going first could win you the game if your opponent can't hide his army. So basically we learned, oh man, why is that not on silent? So basically we learned that 40k, you want the terrain to be set up in a manner where you can hide your entire army at a line of sight, because a shooting army can just devastate you and win the game on turn one. Now that's an extreme. I'm not, always degrees and scales of things. We learned to balance functionality and visual appeal with that. You have to be able to hide your army. Now, obviously, you want to take risks sometimes and put things out in the open, but also the type of terrain makes a difference. So in 40k, I know this is all going to matter anyways. It's all going to come back around. But in 40k, we use a lot of these big, square, blocky buildings that just remove a big section of the map out of the way. You can't hide behind it. And in providing a visual explanation, but basically we learned that it's almost better. No, it is better to have ruins made out of foam, like pieces of triangle. I'm not really set up to show. Maybe I could have pre-thought this out. Like 2 pieces of foam like this on the table is better, because you can go inside the triangle, and it's breachable, so you can walk through it with your infantry and whatnot. It doesn't remove a big section of the table of play, but still provides that line of sight and stuff like that. So we've learned the 40k evolution of terrain and how it kind of works with 9th edition. I'm not saying we've mastered it over at Mini Wargaming, or I've mastered it in my games. I'm not saying that, but it's making sense now, and I see how we're making progress with that. That being said, for Sigmar, can't figure it out. I think this is it's super early. So maybe somebody out there has already thought about that, but terrain just doesn't seem to matter. Now, line of sight blocking isn't really there except for trees. So do we have to have a trees in every battle report? And more so than that, the tree clearly defining what sections of trees is blocking line of sight is not as easy as defined these days as it used to be, except for if you use the old Citadel Wildwoods, the ones that Games Workshop no longer sells and has discontinued, it has a clear base and you put like 3 trees on top. Those seem to work very well with Age of Sigmar 3rd edition. And as far as I can tell, that's the only piece of terrain that kind of works well. Everything else is just a... I don't want to use the word obstacle, because that actually has a thing. Everything else is just a piece of negative area you can't walk through. Which, you know, games are going to have that, but they're not as impactful as we would like. Basically, you're... As shooting becomes more and more prevalent, they aren't doing anything to protect you. Pretty much see. And monsters, like models getting so big, you're gonna be able to see everybody. So I'm thinking about how to create better and better tables. So we had this one game where we had Matthew. So Luke and I were playing a game, and Matthew. Again, I'm assuming you guys know the people I'm talking about. Every now and then I get a viewer on this channel who doesn't realize there's a big channel called Mini Wargaming where I work for my day job. But if you don't recognize these names, you should. This is my day job. But so anyways, Luke and I were playing a bat rep for Age of Sigmar, and we're talking about this exact terrain issue. So we said, Matthew, set us up a table that is not symmetrical. Just do whatever you want and make it as dense or as light as you want. We're just gonna try somebody else's depiction of the terrain. So Matthew built us a table that was very terrain dense, with like rocks and stuff. What it meant is it created a bunch of lanes and avenues of movement that we thought, okay, this is different, we'll try this. And then when playing, my army had no fly. Nothing would fly. And my bases were all 50 mil or smaller for the most part. And Luca had some nice big round fly bait, like terror guys and stuff, right? He just flew into the corridors and completely blocked my ability to move out and play the game. So we learned right away that dense terrain, and I don't mean dense in the keyword like 40k. I mean like a lot of terrain doesn't work. The map was smaller, took too much play out of the way, and it over dictated where your models could go if they didn't have it. It didn't work. So now we're left with a game where we're kind of hoping the General's Handbook redresses it or adds something where other than trees and actual space removal from a table doesn't add much to the game. And I think that's unfortunate because I think terrain rules or the table is a, you know, maybe I'm just wrong in that thought, but I think I just want terrain to be more impactful. And it doesn't seem to be for Sigmar as it stands right now. So then General's Handbook comes out. I don't know if it's all out. Like, you guys just, I don't know if it's pre-order or for sale. No, they're out now because the stores have it. So you guys might have your copy now and might see what I'm talking about. But there isn't anything there terrain-wise, like adding types of terrain. I don't even know what else. I guess we have ruins, we have trees. We don't have overgrown anymore. Well, I guess we kind of. It doesn't matter. Okay, we have no types of terrain. But what the General's Handbook did do was near the back, it added a section. I don't know what to call it, the subsection, where it said basically when you're using the General's Handbook, when you're using this season of war, you must use the random terrain generator rule. Basically, so I'm using the words probably incorrectly. But any piece of terrain that has a war scroll will have special rules, arcane, damned, or whatever. Like all the stuff that Games Workshop sells has rules for terrain. But General's Handbook says if you're playing the Season of War, you have to roll the random traits for all the terrain that you put on the table. Now that has always been part of Sigmar, and no one I know has ever used it. Now, by all means, please comment below if you use it in your gaming group. I know all of us tend to ignore. Well, I remember trying early on rolling for every piece of terrain and giving it a random rule, but it always got forgotten. Basically, if you play a dozen games, right, and then sometimes this spire is arcane, and sometimes it's damned, and sometimes it's whatever, you tend to forget. Like I don't know anybody who uses those. And I never thought for a second like a General Handbook would say you must do this. I don't think moving forward we are going to use those rules. But is that literally being a hypocrite and saying, hey, I don't have terrain rules, but then I'm looking at the section that gives them and just choosing to or ignore them? Or has anybody out there been using them regularly and then liking them? I just don't find that they're gonna do the thing I. But maybe I gotta give them a try. So yeah, I want to. Is anybody using those? How is everybody else building terrain? And secondly, so what I just did before starting this video was I just went to YouTube and typed in Age of Sigmar battle report and checked a bunch of other channels. Now, obviously, I can't watch tons of battle. I work this hobby literally 24/7. I feel so. When I'm not making videos, I'm painting minutes. So, but that being said, I do watch some backups every now and then. But there's a bunch of channels here I never even heard of. And there's some good looking backup channels out there, like with good looking tables. But I went through each and every one of them, and without watching like 30 minutes of backup, I'm looking. Okay, they're doing the exact same thing. They're making their tables look interesting, but basically the terrain is not impacting anything. So it looks like it's not like it's not. I think this is a wider problem than I'm realizing. Now, one thing I wasn't able to notice offhand was if anybody was using the random terrain rules. I have to watch the entire backup to know, but like I don't know. I don't think anybody is. At least nobody's clearly marking them like this. Whatever is arcane now. These woods are damned, or whatever they're called. Yeah. So I'm not seeing that. So I'm assuming nobody's doing that. And does Age of Sigmar just have a terrain doesn't matter that much issue? And secondly, if it does, is that a problem? I feel like it is. It hasn't. Well, okay. The lack of terrain rules has not, as of yet, like or maybe ever, hasn't made me feel like I don't. How do I put this? I don't think I've had a negative experience because of lack of terrain. I'm just wanting more. So it's not negatively impacting the game too much. I think there's a problem, but I want more. I want terrain rules, but I wouldn't know what they would look like or how they would work. I can pick apart things I don't like or don't want or whatever, but I never know how to, I'm never gonna be a rules writer. I don't know how to fix this problem. That being said, is there anything anybody out there does in their home games that's really cool and fun? Like I like special terrain rules and homebrew type stuff, so long as it's not ridiculous. Like where I don't know, it doesn't matter. So do you agree? Does third edition have a terrain issue? Is it solved if you just use the random terrain keywords like arcane and whatnot? In the back of the book, do you do that? If you do that, do you remember what's what, or does it often by battle round 2 does not matter what those are anymore because nobody's? Let me know how you feel about terrain. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I need to figure out how to create an Age of Sigmar 3rd edition table. It took a longer time than I wanted to figure out how to do it properly for 40k, and I feel like I'm in that section right now for Sigmar. So you know what? Any tips or any of your opinions comment below? I would love to know. Terrain.